Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Therefore, no current or prospective client should assume that the future performance of any specific investment strategy, including the investments and/or investment strategies recommended and/or purchased by advisor, or product made reference to directly or indirectly, will be profitable. Different types of investment involve varying degrees of risk, and there can be no assurance that any specific investment will either be suitable or profitable for a client's investment portfolio. No client or prospective client should assume that any information presented serves as the receipt of or substitute for personalized investment advice from the advisor or any other investment professional.
Welcome to the Bullington Capital Report, hosted by Bill Bullington. For the next hour, you'll receive information on current market conditions and trends that could affect your financial future. If you have a question, you can participate in today's program by calling 216-901-0945. That's 216-901-0WHK. You can also reach Bill by going to his website, bullingtoncapital.com. And now, here's Bill Bullington.
Well, welcome back to the Bullington Capital Report. It's there have been so many things happening at a very high level and very complicated, and it is really difficult to keep up. Fortunately, I have a email newsletter that you can sign up for that's free, and I select through the articles that are presented to me as to which ones that I can actually publish. And it comes from, we get all kinds of, I pay for this, by the way. And it is, it's not inexpensive. I'm able to rerun articles that show up in Forbes. This one comes from the Wall Street Journal, The Economist magazine, and there are a ton of others. I mean, there are several hundred that, when you set up the parameters on what kind of topics you like, they'll suggest certain articles that are showing up that week, and then I select those and just send them out. It's interesting. I think it is. It can be kind of boring, I know, to an awful lot of people, but I like taking a look at it. And in The Economist, the article I selected was How America's Economy is Dodging Disaster. And that was just on July 7th, so that thing's only 5 days old. Anyway, I'll just read a couple of the paragraphs to it, and if you're interested, I can always send you a copy of this. Anyway, it goes, economic doom beckoned after President Donald Trump announced his Liberation Day tariffs on April 2nd. Stocks crashed. Forecasters predicted a recession within the year. 3 months on, the mood is rather more relaxed. Prices in shops are not noticeably higher. Unemployment is flat, and the S&P index is resurgent, back at all-time highs. By the way, that was one of the things I wanted to spend some time on, and I'll probably have to do it at another show a little bit later in the month. But when the media starts talking about where the S&P 500 is, and they say it's at an all-time high, that is so misleading. It's unbelievable. And when the all-time high is only a small percentage away from where it is right now, it really doesn't mean a lot. And that all-time high may have been made 2, 3, 4 years ago, and then when the market corrects like it did in the mid-2000s, 2009 through 2015, you get some big corrections in there, and they say, oh, it's an all-time high. Yeah, well, the other all-time high was 2009. So, and the media does that intentionally. They have to. I get it. They need the clicks because that's how they get paid. If you don't click on the article, their advertisers don't have to pay anything in many cases. And that depends, too. There are so many different ways now that they're structuring their payments on the Internet. You just have to realize that everything that comes through a source of quote-unquote news is somebody has to get paid, and they have to take a certain angle with that article to be able to satisfy their advertisers. So we would all like to think that the news is the news, and they're very careful at what they publish and how they publish it, and that is actually true. But it's it's kind of slanted towards the eye of the advertiser rather than the people who are reading it. So you just have to watch, and I guess that's one of the reasons I still have a job. Is because this stuff is a lot of it's just out. Some of it's downright misleading. I mean, literally, the way that they'll present it to be 100% opposite, or to get people to think 100% opposite of what they're actually saying. So, yeah. Anyway, it's one of the reasons I still have a job. And the article goes on to talk about tariffs and whether that is going to start something more serious. And the person that wrote this article says it depends on how punchy the president feels in the coming days. Good luck forecasting that. It's very difficult, and it's unbelievable to me. All the things that I've seen happen over the past, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years, stuff that you didn't really think would ever happen just because of the way things had played out up until this time in history. And there was people spoke very eloquently. That was a problem. Oftentimes they would use terminology that you'd have to have a minor, at least, in economics to understand. I don't know if you've ever seen Powell speak, or one of the local Fed heads of the local Fed district, but those guys have trouble speaking English. But if you listen to it enough, it gets pretty easy. And why would you do that? Well, just to give you a heads up. Now, more often than not, you should be following a investment program that's adjusting to whatever's happening. And that's one of the reasons I'm a big fan of exchange traded funds. First of all, they're built with an objective in mind. They have certain criteria that they use to say, okay, if this happens, then we want this to happen. And they're all pretty similar. Most of them are market cap weighted within whatever those guidelines are. So they've got these initial guidelines of size, where it's being, whether it's in the United States or not, and then you have speed. So they're looking at how fast the stocks are going up, and one of the other factors is profitability. So the algorithms, that's just a mathematical formula, and basically just a list of criteria that the companies have to meet before they can get considered to be in the fund. And then they'll execute it based on, they decide how much money they're going to put in it by using market cap weighting. And the S&P 500 is the most popular market cap weighted index. It's not the only one. There are thousands of indexes. And if you look through the thousands of indexes, if you're getting closer to retirement and you want to get the biggest bang for your buck, which, by the way, you should be doing it no matter what age you are. But if you're getting close to retirement and you want the biggest bang for your buck, you want to focus on those that have the best track records over long time periods. Over a short time period, and this is something that, I don't know, we haven't talked a lot about it in the last few years, but something that I discovered a long time ago, and I thought, wow, that's insane. You got all these smart people that created these categories for stocks to invest in, and they are almost guaranteed to underperform the regular index. Just the criteria that goes into the regular index. They were trying to take some of the risk out of the funds. And they'll argue that on paper, it's less risky. Yeah, and on paper and in the real world, it's made less money. And there's a reason for that. And it's the way it's structured. It's the stocks that they're looking at. You want high quality stocks, not just stocks who are cheap. And cheap is expensive. So when you're thinking about that, and I know a lot of people don't need to think about that, but if you're out there and you're a do-it-yourselfer, you better be familiar with that. Otherwise, you'll end up costing yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on how old you are and how long you live. So anyway, glad I got that out of the way. What I really like about this service that I use is they kind of tell both sides of the story, and it doesn't seem the articles that I'm choosing. I'm trying to pick them based on how many people will actually understand what's in the article, because there's an awful lot of I don't know if you've ever seen the dictionary of financial terms. It's a couple inches thick. And it's not very wide, but still, there are thousands and thousands. So I'm not a big fan of, using words with 5 and 6 syllables in them because they sound so much more eloquent. I'm a big fan of trying to keep it as simple as possible. And so my newsletter does that. It goes through and picks out these articles, and you've got a ton of staff working and pouring over this stuff, and so they're picking what they feel like are the best of the best, and then I get to pick from those. So anyway, going down to the very bottom in this article, and the articles aren't that long either. It probably takes, it depends on how fast you read, but maybe 10 minutes on a long end to get through one of the articles. But again, like I said, what I really liked about this was I thought it was relatively clear, and the last two paragraphs kind of summarize everything in this first article. And I'll just read them for you so that you can kind of know what I mean. It goes, whether this is the start of something more serious depends in large part on how punchy the president feels in the coming days. Without a deadline extension or similar, and especially if Mr. Trump doubles down on tariffs, a further slowdown seems likely. As Britain discovered after Brexit, the most recent case of a rich country imposing large trade barriers on itself, elevated uncertainty can by itself be sufficient to suppress business investment for quite some time. And America is now an extremely uncertain country. Lovely. All the same, a worse slowdown does not necessarily mean a recession. I am going to stop for a second and make a comment there. Do you know how many extremely well-paid, extremely influential, highly educated analysts there are that try to forecast what's going to happen in the economy over the next 6 months up to 10 years? But the ones most people are most interested in is what do you see in the short run? And the short run is anything less than a couple of years. Actually, it's less than 5 years, but people hate that. they don't. They think that 6 months is long term, and that's actually short term. So these guys are paid an enormous amount of money to try to make those forecasts, and they used to publish how well they were doing, and the numbers were so poor, and you would have been better off flipping a quarter. Okay. You want to know whether home building was going to be up or down this quarter? Flip this quarter? Yeah, flip a quarter. You wanted to know what loans were doing, how many people were buying cars. Cars and real estate are two huge chunks of the GDP in this country. That's the gross domestic product. That's basically how much money the whole country is generating in revenue. And I know the true people that are academics at this are just rolling their eyes right now, but I don't have time to go into what we're using to calculate GDP. Maybe I'll do that on a future show. But anyway, when it slows down, it doesn't always slow down so much that it causes a recession. And I've only got about 10 seconds left before commercial break, so I'm going to take a mini recession here and let you know this is Bill Bullington right here on 1420. I'll be back after these messages.
Wide awake while the world is sound asleep and too afraid of what might show up while you're dreaming.
Bob France here. Improve the comfort and value of your home with new windows from Empire Window Company. Call 855-76-EMPIRE or log on to empirewindowcompany.com.
Watch good, clean comedy videos from today's most popular comedians anytime you want at GodTube.com, your place for family entertainment and laughs. It's the all-new GodTube.com.
No doubt about it, we're spending more time at home, which is the perfect time to make it more functional and beautiful. Hi, Ed Flash Ferentz here for Artistic Renovations, Northeast Ohio's premier and award-winning remodeler. Artistic did a fantastic job with our kitchen in 2016, and last year, they were back for the master bath. Oh, my word. Do yourself a favor and go to artisticreno.com. Believe me, you'll love their ideas and without question the finished product. For a virtual consultation, call 216-520-0838 or visit artisticreno.com.
The Declaration of Independence begins when, in the course of human events, we aim for accurate presentation of all the facts. HumanEvents.com.
For a long time, we worked right out of our garage, like a tech startup, except for plumbing. Luke, me, my dad, plus Jamal. And a great thing about that is we were just off the kitchen, and Mom was there, making sure we always had fresh coffee, sodas, and snacks. Plus, we'd full-on feast on breakfast with everybody a few times a month. And nothing beats sitting down together over a home-cooked meal.
Especially with your mom's blueberry oatmeal pancakes.
Jamal's right. Those are my favorite.
Forget plumbing. You'd make a fortune just selling those.
So when we moved into our current building, we recreated Mom's kitchen between the offices and the warehouse. And Mom's still there sometimes on Tuesdays, cooking breakfast, including her famous pancakes for the whole company. So ladies, if your husband's a plumber who isn't happy or appreciated at work, and if he's the right kind of plumber, call about joining us for breakfast.
If you're on the team, you're family, and you'll see it for yourself over breakfast.
Consider it done at WyattWorks.com.
Thinking about updating your home? Well, Joyce Factory Direct specializes in replacing old, outdated windows. Proudly made right here in Cleveland, Joyce Windows features their exclusive Smart Shield high-performance glass, which means you'll be getting the most energy-efficient windows for your home directly from the factory. Customers just love how much warmer their house is and how easy their new windows operate and clean. Right now, you can save 50% on all installations. Just call to schedule a free consultation with on-the-spot pricing, 440-243-5700, or visit JoyceFactoryDirect.com.
Well, welcome back. Bill Bullington here every Saturday morning from 11 to noon. If you have any questions or would like to get a copy of one of these articles, feel free to go to my website, bullingtoncapital.com. You'll have to go to the Contact Us page and ask for the article or just a copy of all the articles from the week. But I'll be glad to try to send one, email that out to you. And having said that, I'd like to go, there's another article. And this came up in the Wall Street Journal July 3rd, so just about 9 days ago. And the headline is, What Trump's Mega Bill Means for You. How parents, retirees, tipped workers, Medicaid recipients, and more will be affected. And the article goes on to say the nearly 900-page Republican tax bill is headed into law after passing the House. Broadly, the legislation makes Trump's 2017 tax cuts permanent, extending current income tax rates. It also adds some new breaks while making cuts to federal health care coverage, food aid, and student loan programs. Here's what it could mean for your finances. If you live in a high-tax state, the bill would raise the maximum state and local tax deduction to $40,000, up from $10,000 now. That's a big one. And it would increase it 1% annually through 2029, so they would take some of it back, but not a lot. The cap then reverts to $10,000 in 2030. That's pretty wild. So better take that over the next 5 years. But the maximum deduction would begin phasing down once income crosses 500,000. So the income threshold would increase 1% every year through 2029. Okay. If you're a parent, legislation would raise the child tax credit to $2,200 from $2,000 starting in 2026, index it for inflation, and extend it permanently. Huh. That's interesting. So it's going to go up by inflation each year, and if they're calculating inflation like they have in the past, it'll probably double every 7 or 8 years. So the 2,200 is going to go, will double every 7 or 8 years as long as they keep it. And the chances of it not being messed with between now and 10 years from now, so just stay tuned. Anyway, it also creates new Trump accounts for children born between 2025 and 2028, with a one-time government contribution of $1,000 to invest on the child's behalf. That's interesting. I'm going to have to look more into that one. Families can contribute up to $5,000 a year, and the funds can be withdrawn in adulthood. Doesn't say what adulthood is. Anyway, for parents and undergraduate students, the legislation would cap the Parent Plus student loan program. It would set new borrowing limits of $65,000 per student and $20,000 a year per student. Doesn't say whether those are undergrad, graduate. Anyway, Parent Plus loans would no longer be eligible for income-driven repayment programs after July 1st, 2026. So if you're looking at a Parent Plus loan, you should probably get it done before next year. If you're over 65, the bill doesn't eliminate taxes on Social Security, but it adds a new tax deduction for seniors for the 2025 to 2028 tax years. People over 65 can deduct up to $6,000 from their taxable income if they make $75,000 or less, or $150,000 or less for married couples. The maximum deduction, what's interesting about that is they didn't need to. Never mind. I was just thinking, if you're going to take it $75,000 per person, but you're not married and you're living together, you still get the $150,000. It's like they didn't give you anything to mention married couples. And that's one of the things that just drives me nuts about a certain personality type. And we all know them. They're the guys that think, why would you use 1,000 words when 100,000 are so much more eloquent? And those are the types of people that we have in Congress, and those are future law school students and a lot of existing lawyers. Most of the people writing that stuff are lawyers anyway. But it just bugs me to see them wasting all that time, effort, and energy to explain something that could be done in a paragraph. Anyway, if you're a student, the legislation would eliminate current income contingent repayment plans for student loans paid out after July 1st, 2026. It replaces them with two new options: a standard repayment plan, where borrowers pay a fixed amount every month for over 10 to 25 years, or the repayment assistance plan, which would tie payments to the borrower's adjusted gross income with a payment term of 30 years. Those seem pretty similar to each other. Anyway, that bill would eliminate the Grad Plus program that lets graduate students borrow as much as the cost of attendance starting July 1st, 2026. It adds new borrowing limits of $20,500 a year for graduate students and $50,000 a year for professional students. Yeah. Being a professional student was not a compliment when I was in school. I'm just kidding, kind of. Anyway, those in fields like medicine and law. Okay, professional students, those are like, all right. There will also be aggregate loan limits of $100,000 for graduate students and $200,000 for professional students. The bill also raises the endowment tax on private colleges, which could hit university budget. Colleges with fewer than 3,000 students are exempt. I wonder how many colleges have less than 3,000 kids going there. Anyway, if you're planning to buy a car, under the new legislation, tax credits for buying a new electric vehicle will expire September 30th. That includes a $7,500 incentive for buying a new EV or $4,000 for a used one. The credit for buying and installing a home charging station would end June 20th, 2026. For the 2025 to 2028 tax years, the bill would enable taxpayers to deduct up to $10,000 in auto loan interest from their taxable income. That would apply to U.S.-made cars. The maximum deduction phases down when income surpasses $100,000. If you're on Medicaid, starting December 31st, 2026, the bill adds new work requirements and more frequent eligibility checks for Medicaid enrollees. Able-bodied adults will be required to work 80 hours a month with some exceptions, including for caretakers of children under 14. Starting October 1st, 2028, Medicaid expansion states will be required to charge enrollees up to $35 for some appointments if their income is between 100 and 138% of the federal poverty level. The legislation, man, my tongue is getting tied, also limits a tax mechanism that states use to attract matching federal funds, which could impact hospital budgets, especially in rural areas. Yeah, let's beat up those rural hospitals. They haven't taken enough beating over the last few years. I'm kidding. This is the total opposite. Anyway, if you receive SNAP benefits, the bill tightens eligibility requirements for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. That's the SNAP program. For 80 hours a month work requirement would apply, the 80-hour a month work requirement would apply to able-bodied adults under 65, with the exception of people caring for children under 14. Under current law, the work requirements apply to adults under 55, with an exception for caregivers of children under 18. The bill would also require some states to chip in for SNAP payments starting in fiscal 2028, which could strain their budgets. Oh, really? Just because you're asking them to fund millions of dollars extra in the program that normally was funded by the Fed? I just don't know what people are thinking. I mean, anyway, if you're a tipped worker for the 2025 to 2028 tax years, workers can deduct up to $25,000 of tips from their taxable income under the new plan. Note that this would only apply to federal income taxes, not state or payroll taxes. The maximum deduction begins shrinking once income surpasses $150,000. Oh, so if I guess probably New York City, there are some servers that make over $150,000. I can't imagine probably Los Angeles and some of the California areas, but wow. So a server is going to have to earn $150,000 to get the maximum deduction on this. Lovely. Anyway, only certain professions would qualify for the tips deduction. Oh, you mean you can't give your doctor a tip? I'm just kidding. The Treasury is required to publish the list within 90 days of enactment. Wow. Wow, this is interesting. So they don't even know which industries they're going to be yet. Huh. If you work overtime, the bill adds a no tax on overtime deduction capped at $12,500 for individuals or $25,000 for married couples. Now, that would be exceptional. I'm going to have to tell some people I know about this. If you're not going to get taxed on overtime, because I know young kids just out of college just living together, and they're at companies where they are putting in a lot of overtime and getting paid for it, this is going to help them. Let's see. No tax on overtime deduction capped at $12,500 or $25,000 for married couples. Individuals making $150,000 or less would qualify for the maximum deduction. Okay. Yeah, so if their income's under $125,000, the individual income. This will be in effect for the 2025 to 2028 tax years and only applies to federal income taxes, not state or payroll taxes. That was a mouthful. That was just one of the articles that I spent out this week. I'm sure people are probably going to hate me now for that. I'm just kidding. These are good. I like the other. There's a homeowner's insurance ready for the next natural disaster. I'm not going to comment or read from that one. I would just request, if you wanted to see it, I'll send it to you. But homeowner's insurance is really important. I mean, with the weather getting the way that it is, you probably want to try to take a look at this and I've got someone I know that I can refer you to that can help you identify that kind of stuff, and like how much are you covered. I mean, I'm absolutely positive that there are a ton of those homes in those areas that were not adequately covered, and you will not hear much about that because, first of all, it takes a long time to go through the process of the attorneys suing the insurance companies because they're not paying for certain stuff, and they argue over it all the time. So, but you just want to have a really good insurance person on that because it is unbelievably important. Anyway, how America's economy is dodging disaster. This is pretty interesting. Economic doom beckoned after President Donald Trump announced his Liberation Day tariffs on April 2nd. Stocks crashed. Forecasters predicted a recession within the year. 3 months on, the mood is rather more relaxed. Prices in shops are not noticeably higher. Unemployment is flat, and the S&P index is resurgent. Back at all-time highs, my favorite phrase from these guys. You know, that all-time high was reached a few years ago, dude. Anyway, Mr. Trump's 90-day pause for many of his tariffs, announced a week after Liberation Day to calm markets, is due to end on July 9th. The officials have signaled that tariffs may not boomerang back until August 1st. So he's thinking about pushing it off again. They may just keep pushing it off for a really long time until it gets so well received, or at least allows the public to be prepared somewhat. And that's probably not a bad idea to handle something like that. You know, let's announce it, and everybody panics, and then say, okay, we're not going to do it, and okay, we're going to do it again, but we're not going to do it right away. And by the time it actually comes, everybody's psychologically really well prepared for that. A tariff of 50% or 10% or whatever the final tariffs that they're going to agree to come to are going to be, are not paid. This is one of the things that, you know, the rhetoric I've seen, the Trump administration does not seem to understand that when you put tariffs on people, the foreign countries are not paying the taxes on that. We are. And that just blew me away. I was just totally blown away by the thought that somebody at that level would know so little about economics. It doesn't really matter. If you put a tax on it, someone's going to have to pay it. And no, the foreign countries are not going to take 10% less. They're adding that tax to the price of their product, the one that they shipped it over there. Now, they might. They could take and say, look, all right, well, since the price is going to be up 10% or whatever the tariff is for that, because there's a big scale range, maybe we'll eat a portion of that. We will actually pay a certain percentage of that, but the rest of it we're going to add. We're just going to let them tax it. We're not going to reduce our prices to offset some of those taxes. And that's what I just don't understand, that this administration doesn't understand. Well, how could you not know that? And that's a little spooky, actually. And I think in the future, we should probably have something that doesn't allow anybody to run for office who's over the age of 70, maybe 65. You know, I don't know, especially since I'm creeping up to that age myself. The 65, by the way, not the 70. Yeah, knock on wood, I'll make it a long time past that. But if you could have told me that when I was a young man that, you know, our presidents are going to be in their 70s and 80s, I would have said, yeah, right. You know, everybody would have said the same thing. But it's amazing, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, people are living healthier longer if they follow, you know, protocols and try to eat right, get enough walking in, and but it's still pretty spooky. Anyway, I really liked this art. You know what? I'm sorry, started to hear something there. I thought I've got a couple minutes here, I think, before I have to go to the next commercial. But anyway, if you'd like a copy of any of this stuff, feel free to email me. It's bill@bullingtoncapital.com. Again, I get thousands of articles that I get access to from all kinds of publishers, The Economist, Barron's, Wall Street Journal, you name it. I have a list of priorities that people go out and look at the articles, and then they suggest based on what you're interested in. Here are all the articles, and then I pick them. So I just like, these are the ones that just caught my eye for now. And I'm amazed that the economy is actually as strong as it is. And that is mind-boggling, if you ask me. It's been so resilient with all the stuff that's been going on, and it's just very impressive. Anyway, when we come back, we'll talk about the fixed income side, how to get guaranteed income. I've got about 10 seconds before the break starts. And this is Bill Bullington right here on 1420. I'll be back after these messages.
Do you ever find yourself saying, I need a vacation? Vacation Fixation can help. At Vacation Fixation, we specialize in all-inclusive trips and cruises to Mexico, the Caribbean, and Disney vacations. Why choose us? Our clients book through Vacation Fixation because they are frustrated with online trip brokers and timeshare scams. Whether it's a weekend getaway, a family trip, spring break, or honeymoon, Vacation Fixation will personalize a trip just for you. Want to know the hottest destinations in Cancun, Punta Cana, Jamaica, or Puerto Vallarta? Interested in room upgrades, beach reviews, or details about resort restaurants? How about finding a trip with a direct flight? At Vacation Fixation, we take all of your specific travel requests and shop our suppliers to find the best deal. What's the cost? Our suppliers pay us so you don't have to. Call 330-573-8147 for more details. Or you can visit our website at vacationfixation.com or check out the deal of the day on Facebook. Vacation Fixation.
You've heard the saying, all good things come to an end. Well, not always. Sometimes they just take a break. That's what's happening with Our Lady of the Wayside's car donation program after 24 years and 96,000 rides donated. Pretty amazing. Here's the story. The car lot's owners sold the property, making it impossible for car donations to be accepted at this time. According to the Wayside CEO, Terry Davis, the next right steps will be determined and communicated soon, so stay tuned. In the meantime, Terry and the entire team at the Wayside thank you for your continued support of the 450 individuals with developmental disabilities in the Wayside's care. And please take note, you can still support them by making a donation at thewayside.org.
Some of them.
Don't say it.
Why not?
Say Wallacadoodle instead.
Wallacadoodle? Why?
Hello, ma'am. I'm from Wyatt Works, here to Wallacadoodle your electrical outlet.
Wow, but aren't you guys plumbers?
Okay, we don't really get there that fast. But we do offer same-day service for water heater replacement because we are plumbers.
Whistling plumbers.
And now we offer electrical work too. We've had in-house electricians on staff to ensure perfect work on water heater installations and replacement. And now we're offering electrical work to Cleveland homeowners, like fixing any outlet you want for only $89. Got a loose outlet that won't hold your plugs in place? Like that loose plug you always use for your vacuum cleaner.
I hate that.
We can wallacadoodle that outlet for just 89 buckaroos.
Yes.
Same thing for dead outlets. Upside down outlets?
You name it, we can fix it for that flat rate price of $89.
Just call Wyatt Works and
consider it done.
Is it finally time to update your bathroom? Bath Planet, a division of Joyce Factory Direct, specializes in replacing and converting old showers and tubs into new, beautiful bathrooms in as little as one day. We have transformed thousands of bathrooms just like yours into a spa-like oasis that has homeowners excited to use their new bathtub or shower. Right now, all bath installations are 50% off. So call to schedule a free consultation with on-the-spot pricing. 440-243-5700 or visit joycefactorydirect.com.
And I'm back. It was just looking at kind of the fixed income market. And bonds are actually, it really depends on what you're doing. You can get some high yield bonds, which, by the way, the street slang for that is junk bond. It's because they're riskier. But if you're going to buy those, you want to do that in a fund. Absolutely, positively. They're not as affected by interest rate moves. At least they haven't been in the past. But they are super sensitive to the economy. So that's actually a very good thing to kind of keep your eye on when you're looking at the forecasters for what you think you might see in the stock market. If you are that type of a person, I just don't believe that anybody can accurately forecast markets. And I know they tried to drill that in our heads 35 years ago when I was in training. And don't try and predict the market. Don't try and predict, because if you could get that right, okay, you could make an unbelievable amount of money. If you only got a 1 or 2% increase or decrease, and you got it, and you hit it on the head, okay. So you bought at a really good time, and you sold at a really good time. If you're able to do that one time, I can show you how to take an investment of a few $1,000s and turn it into over $1 million. Okay, that's how hard that is. And I know it. A lot of people are going to hear that and go, "Oh, that can't be that hard." Well, if it weren't that hard, do you know how many people on Wall Street, they wouldn't even work, and we'd have this ruling class of people who had the information and the knowledge, and they would just own everything. That's how much money they would be able to make if that were possible. Now, so having said that, so what do? When interest rates start to go down, the short-term bonds, their interest rates go down pretty quickly. The interest rate on the long-term bond stays the same. If you got a bond that's at $1,000 and it's paying, because most of them sell in $1,000 increments, and let's say it's paying 4%, so that's $40. If interest rates go down and say now they're only paying $30, okay, well, the value of your bond goes up, and it goes up quite a bit, even on a move like that, especially if it's over 30 years. Yeah, but if interest rates go up, if they go up to 5%, well, you're only getting $40 for your bond in interest at 4%. Now, new bond buyers are getting $50. Okay, so in order for you to get a $50 or to sell your bond to somebody else, you go right out into the marketplace and buy a bond with a 5% yield. You're going to have to take a smaller amount of money because your bond is only paying $40. And that's the basics behind why bond prices go up and down when interest rates move. And I can remember when I was studying that like 35 years ago. It was a trip. And then sometimes, I don't care, I had this statement that I wrote down once, and I looked at it and I go, that's actually very true. And the statement was, anything can happen and probably will, because I was watching some stuff that was going on inside. We were much more in individual securities instead of funds back then, which I still am quite a bit. In fact, I forgot to talk about the Goldman Sachs model. It's been doing really well. Knock on wood. Goldman Sachs model is just a model. It's a set of rules, kind of like the set of rules for bonds that we were just talking about. Interest rates go up X percent. Bonds that are AAA rated probably going to go down this percent, and AA rated probably go down this percent. By the way, that's another thing that affects bond prices are the credit ratings. The ones with the lower credit ratings have a tendency to move faster. Yeah, which kind of makes sense if you think about it. But there's just so much to know with all this stuff. What cracks me up is I'll look at portfolios. And by the way, if you'd like me to take a look at yours, I'll be glad to do that. And there's no charge. But when you're looking at them, to know what you're looking at, what you're seeing, it's not that easy without an awful lot of information, and you have to pay for that. And the quality data is not inexpensive, and so that's one of the things that we try to do at my firm is say, hey, let's take a look at what you're doing. You tell me what your risk tolerance is, and risk tolerance is basically how much of a decline can you withstand. How much can you take before you start to panic? And that is actually a lot harder to figure out where you, and especially for a married couple, because they almost never agree. But you got to come up with a number. Let's say my number is 30%. It used to be 35, and actually it was 40 at one point in time. So now I'm getting closer to retirement. So if I got a 30% decline, yeah, I'd be upset, but I wouldn't be ready to panic and try to sell and go to cash. That's just not going to happen. But I'm also willing to take a 30% decline. So if it were down 30%, I wouldn't be happy. Okay, but I also know that it's coming back. And there's no doubt it's coming back. The ETFs I'm purchasing are making adjustments all the time, every day actually. It's probably a good thing the average investor can't see that either, because it looks like chaos if you're watching the stocks and how much they're moving within those funds, and which is very expensive to set up, by the way, on your labs at home. And if some of you guys have worked out there with Yahoo Finance and can actually do that, give me a call. It's not like I would just like to know if it's even capable, but the bottom line is the fluctuation is a lot. Stocks fluctuate a lot. Bonds fluctuate a lot. Government bonds fluctuate a lot. What doesn't fluctuate a lot? Well, short-term CDs, short-term treasury bonds, short-term collateralized tax-free bonds that are collateralized with treasuries. Those things don't fluctuate very much. You're buying them basically for the income that they generate, which is a lot better than it used to be. I mean, it's like way better. I think on the low end you might get 3%. On the high end you might get 4.5%, 4.75% right now. And that's for a short term, which attracts an awful lot of people. Yeah, that's what I want. I don't know, man. I've got a couple of annuities, and my guaranteed interest rate on them was 6%. And actually, to the annuities I have, the guaranteed rate goes up each year that you put it off. It creeps up a little bit, and even if it's, I think for a lifetime income, people in their mid 60s, the returns, the total returns were somewhere around 5% or so, and that's guaranteed until you die. So even if interest rates were to go back down to zero, which they have. I never thought I would see that in my lifetime. And if they were to go down that low because the economy's got so slow and the Fed is trying to make it expenditures more attainable, money more available, that's what they mean when they're talking about liquidity. I'm just going to make this money available, and if you qualify, you can get it. But the lower that rate goes, the higher bonds that are already out on the market go up in price, and the opposite happens. And I'm just going to give you a off-the-shelf, this is what I would probably do, but the circumstances that would make me change from this route are, it's like the Browns winning the Super Bowl this year. That's what the odds are of something like that happening. So all other things being equal, you want to stay with high quality for money that you want to keep for stability and for balance in your portfolios. You want high quality, short duration. Duration is a number that, actually I should just say short term. I would not go out past 4 or 5 years at the max. Okay, that with the environment the way it is right now, why am I saying that? Why wouldn't I buy something, a bond, if the United States government is going to guarantee the payment, why wouldn't I just take it for 30 years? Well, because 30 years is a long time. And that's the only guarantee that you get is the income and the fact, well, you get two guarantees. You get the income and you get the payoff at $1,000. So if you pay more than $1,000 for it now, which is highly likely, then you're only getting back $1,000. That's called a premium. So you might pay $110 for a bond that's worth $1,000. You lose the $10 when it matures. A lot more to this stuff than everybody thinks there is. And I'm so glad that I ran into a lot of people that were really good in this industry. I learned a ton of stuff from them, and I'm just so glad that was there, because today you've got, the internet is a lot faster than it was back in 1988, like a lot faster. Most of the internet didn't even exist at that point in time. I think I was signing up. I think Case Western had a internet site you could sign up on, mostly for chat. And you literally had to know what the addresses of the websites were so that you could type them in and get there. It's mind-boggling how far everything's come. But yeah, the basics, the underlying engines still run the same way. Interest rates go up, bond prices come down. Interest rates go down, bond prices go up. You're making a big bet there, and my suggestion for that's why I started looking at the annuities. The annuities pay a rate that's 2 or 3% higher, depending on how old you are, higher than treasuries are paying, and they guarantee those for as long as you live. Okay, so the insurance company is willing to take the risk that if they pick rates and rates go the opposite way of what they thought they're going to, they can still manage that, and they're willing to do that over your entire life expectancy. So anyway, I just got to notice that I got to go because I'm running out of time here. If you'd like to sit down or have a phone conversation, feel free to go to my website or reach out by phone, 330-664-0700. And I will be glad to call you and set something up so that we can have a conversation to see if I can help you out in any way. Anyway, my name is Bill Bullington. I'm here every Saturday morning from 11 to noon, 1420. Have a good weekend, everybody. Good luck. Good investing.
You just caught another edition of the Bullington Capital Report, broadcasting every Saturday at 11 a.m. on AM 1420, The Answer. If you have a question and you'd like to speak to Bill personally, you can call him at 330-664-0700. That's 330-664-0700. Or online at bullingtoncapital.com. That's bullingtoncapital.com.
The preceding program has been paid for by Bullington Capital Management, LLC.